Hi, I'm Stephanie Dyer, and this is Escape Into a Cause, a podcast about discovering how to disconnect from your devices and reconnect with your community by stepping up for nonprofits right here in Central Texas. Right now, funding is getting tighter, support is getting pulled, and nonprofits are being asked to do more with less. But they are still showing up. So the question is, will we? We're escaping into I Live Here, I Give Here with Executive Director Piper Stege Nelson. Learn how this amazing woman earned her name on the list of BBC's top 100 women in 2021. She's incredibly caring, extremely knowledgeable about how to show up for nonprofits, and so much fun. And I don't say that about everyone. She was really a lot of fun. You may know their incredible work in organizing Amplify Austin Day, and we'll talk about how they're connecting people, companies, and nonprofits to build a culture of year-round generosity and how you and your family can be part of it. If you've been wondering how to make more meaningful memories with the people you love, keep listening. Piper and I both agree serving your community is one of the best ways to do it. Also, what could Michael Scott from The Office and Amber Heard possibly have in common? Court and I break it down when we get into the world of pledges versus actual donations. So let's kick things off with a topic that matters and then escape into Central Texas's home for giving back. I live here, I give here. I hope you enjoy. Hi, Courtney.
Hi, Stephanie.
I think by the time this airs, you'll be almost done with your president of the Junior League of Austin. I still can't believe it.
I know
that this is a nonprofit that is close to your heart because it helped with Junior League, which is I Live Here, I Give Here.
I live here, I give here.
Later in this episode, we're escaping into I Live Here, I Give Here, the powerhouse behind Amplify Austin Day and a movement to make generosity a way of life in Central Texas. They connect people, nonprofits, and causes, turning community support into measurable impact.
They're awesome.
Almost every single nonprofit that I had on here, their top of mind was Give on Amplify Austin Day.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to talk to them. But first, I'd like to dive into a topic that matters, and that is pledges versus donations.
Ooh, fun.
Thoughts real quick. Let's first level set. For those that may not know, a pledge is a promise to give a donation. Typically, these make headlines, especially with people with a lot of money. It's either now or in the future. It might be public. It might be binding, but oftentimes it's not.
Correct.
And one of the notorious pledges, Scott's Tots. Do you remember this episode of The Office?
No.
Oh my gosh.
But I love this.
Okay.
Tell me more.
I gotta tell you, Michael Scott in The Office.
Yes.
Suddenly, it's been 10 years since he made a pledge to some third graders at an inner city school to pay for all of their college tuition if they graduated high school.
Stop it.
No, it's so cringy. It's so hard to watch it. He
made this pledge.
Yes.
Now it's been 10 years. These children are starting to graduate high school.
That's correct. Inner city kids, they can't afford it. And he's coming to the school and they're celebrating him. And they're singing like, hey, Mr. Scott, what you gonna do? Make our dreams come true. They create a whole song.
Because Scott's Tots.
They're Scott's Tots. And he's been writing them. They've been making artwork for 10 years. And he has to show up and say, I have no money.
How do they respond to this?
Not good. His heart was in the right place. And you can tell it was in the right place because when he's entering the school, he sees one of the girls and he says her full name and how's her mom. He knows these children. It's terrible. When I thought of a pledge, I thought of Michael Scott in The Office.
Yes.
And I love when Pam from The Office says, why would you promise that?
Right.
And he's like, to change lives. But of course, he can't make it. And he said he thought he was going to be a bigger businessman than he was. But I really sympathize with the children. I think he did pay for textbooks for one kid, and then he was surprised. He was surprised by how expensive the textbooks were. Real quick, now that we've understood pledge versus donation, what would you think are pros, cons?
Oh gosh, so many immediate thoughts. First off, cash now is always preferred. Donations are great and maybe the nonprofit choice between the two. Having said that, a pledge can be a great thing, especially when it's a large sum of money. It can be a great thing for two reasons. And interestingly enough, from an accounting perspective, if you receive a pledge, you actually book it the year that you receive the pledge, not when the money comes in, which is interesting.
Does it have to be legally binding though?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Wait, so nonprofits have to recognize it when it's pledged?
Yes. So for example, the Junior League of Austin received a gift for $100,000, $10,000 for the next 10 years. We book $100,000 now.
For tax
I don't
reasons?
know, but that's what our auditors encourage us to do.
Oh.
Isn't that interesting? It's how
I
you
want
book
to know
it.
the benefit.
It's flashy because it's usually a larger number. People typically aren't pledging $75. They're pledging $7,500, $75,000. So it makes for some flashy headlines. The organization is proud to tout that number. And it makes it more approachable for a donor. Instead of paying $7,500, $75,000 now, I can pay it over time. That is more digestible. And it allows donors who are more affluent to make several pledges at several different places because, again, it's not a lump sum, it's over time. They're able to manage it that way. But one of the things that you mentioned is it's usually non-binding. If someone backs out of a pledge payment, year 3, year 5, year 10, depending on how long that pledge is, there's really not much recourse. It's just the goodness of your heart. They're not getting anything in return. And by the way, that's usually what's required in a contract. There's 3 things. There's an offer, acceptance, and consideration.
I learned that in my one business law class.
There's also this really interesting question. Is it a contract? Because usually they're not signing anything. They've just made this commitment and
contract requires to give and receive.
That's right.
Yeah.
Offer, acceptance, and consideration. You can't just say, hi, would you like me to come to your house for dinner tonight, Steph? And you say, I'd like to. We've exchanged nothing. A contract has not been entered into.
Even if I made dinner.
That's correct. I was talking about more affluent people, those individuals who maybe don't give a lot, but would like to make a stronger impact. For them to do that in bite-sized pieces is actually, again, more approachable and digestible for them. But really putting reliance on that pledge payment being made can sometimes be a little risky.
It is risky because we know from the 2022 defamation trial between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, it came out that she never donated the $7 million she pledged to ACLU and the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles. It made me think, how many people out there get the headline that they're a good person, they gave this, and I don't know how often that happens, but the Washington Post did a investigative article on Donald Trump and his pledges in the past. Not to get political, but that was a Hollywood person who said, I see the fame and the attention I get for being a philanthropist. They didn't see very much follow through on those donations. We have talked in the past about corporate social responsibility, and I love that they have the 1% pledge, which that, of course, is volunteering time, product, and money, and either revenue or equity. What I love about that is that we know that that's a pledge each and every year. The downside of a pledge is that there isn't really much transparency. From a public perspective, we don't go and audit it. We don't go look at it unless it's something like the Amber Heard case where it comes out.
Yeah, in a very public setting.
Exactly. But the pledges do inspire others. I would say that if someone does have integrity and they have the resources, they hopefully do commit. If you do something where it is per year, which would be ideal to get that for budgeting purposes, visibility purposes from a nonprofit and planning. Super helpful. The business, you're trying to determine demand of the sales of your product and you're budgeting around that. I would assume the same is true in terms of reoccurring donations and pledges are super helpful in terms of budgeting and resource allocation for nonprofits.
Yes, predictability and forecasting and knowing what services you're able to give in those future years.
Besides the corporate 1% pledge, you also know about the giving pledge. We talked about this. You actually guessed that it was the one where the billionaires.
That's right.
And that's what it is. So founded in 2010 by Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, and Melinda French Gates. The Giving Pledge is a non-binding public promise by billionaires to give away at least half of their wealth during their lifetime or in their will. Over 240 individuals across more than 30 countries have joined. Notable signers, Mackenzie Scott, Mark Zuckerberg and Priscilla Chan, Elon Musk, Michael Bloomberg, Sarah Blakely, Richard Branson, George Lucas. Any notable non-signers you could maybe think of?
Donald Trump.
I don't think Donald Trump.
I'm surprised Elon Musk did. Let's see, other billionaires who should have signed. I'm not hearing a lot of athletes. I don't know if there's any billionaire athletes.
That's a good question. I'll tell you, Jeff Bezos did not sign. The Walton family, so nobody from Walmart. Rupert Murdoch did not sign. Mark Cuban did not sign. Jay-Z and Beyonce, Oprah Winfrey. Those are some notable non-signers. Now, some of the reasons why they might decline to sign, maybe they prefer privacy, maybe they want to retain control. Belief in alternative impact models. I feel like that's actually where I would say, okay, maybe it makes sense to not pledge. I'm thinking if I'm a billionaire, maybe I would want to go give, that's half, right? They pledge half of their wealth, at least half. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
What if I want to give a nice portion to female entrepreneurs?
Yes.
That's not a nonprofit.
Well, that's what we're seeing Melinda Gates do now. She has now created her own VC, and she is investing in mostly women's startups. And
Is the VC a nonprofit? Do you know?
I don't think it is
Yeah.
because she is expecting a return.
Yeah.
What she's trying to do is show VCs that this is a investment worth making and that she, like any other investor, is expecting a return. Some will hit, some will not, just like any other investment. But she's trying to, understanding that capitalism rules the US economy, she's trying to show that there's a different way to invest. And I think that's really interesting. Obviously, she's the author of this particular campaign. And so I'm just wondering, does she categorize that as giving away? I don't think you could if you are sitting there saying, I'm an investor. Those very much have binding contracts and I expect a return. I've got equity in these entities.
Giving half your wealth seems like you want nothing in return.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I can only imagine that that's like a primary tenet of it. There may be alternatives to doing something altruistic with these funds, but not necessarily giving it away. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. Warren Buffett was quoted saying, millions of people who have very little are happier and better off than we are. We should keep what we need, give away the rest, which I love. Buffett has actually pledged to give away over 99% of his wealth.
Crazy.
Isn't that amazing? Because you think of him as such a businessman.
Yeah. The original businessman.
He's already donated more than $50 billion. It's incredible. Real quick, just some of the slow givers that signed. Larry Ellison from Oracle. Critics have noted a lack of transparency or sustained large-scale giving, as well as Elon Musk. There's been some critics about him. He donated $5.7 billion in Tesla stock to unnamed charities. There's a lot of questions of where his donations are going.
I'm sure. Political giving, is that donations?
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a nonprofit.
Well, it's not a 501c3, but it is a 50 something.
Would that be considered in the pledge? That's a good question.
I know.
But of course, Amplify Austin, that's donations, which I love. Donate. I'm excited to talk with them shortly.
They're amazing. I love how I give here is their board matching, which we were just talking about. They have a phenomenal board matching program where they match community leaders and corporate leaders and governmental leaders with nonprofit boards who are looking for that type of subject matter expertise or support or community connections. I Live Here, I Give Her has fantastic nonprofit training. They're a great organization to have in our backyard.
I'm so excited to dive in. All right. Thanks, Court.
Thanks, Steph.
We'll be right back. Escape into a Cause is sponsored by Nightlight Insurance Agency. You know how a nightlight gives you comfort and peace of mind in the dark? That's exactly what Nightlight aims to do. Guide you through life's uncertainties with personalized insurance for your home, auto, business, and more. Nightlight Insurance strives to provide its clients the best coverage at the best price without sacrificing on customer service. Here's what one client had to say. Nightlight was able to lower our car insurance significantly, answered all our questions, and returned our calls promptly. Very professional, would highly recommend. So it's no surprise Nightlight has a 5-star rating on Google. Nightlight also makes this podcast possible by covering production costs so all other sponsorship dollars and gifts can go directly to nonprofits and volunteers. And as part of their mission to give back, Nightlight proudly donates $1,000 to every nonprofit we interview. If you are a sponsor interested in giving back to our podcast, please find us on social media and let us know. Nightlight is an agency focused on personalized service and giving back. See how much you could save and how good it feels to have peace of mind by visiting nightlightinsurance.com. Today we are escaping into I Live Here, I Give Here, and we have Executive Director Piper Stege Nelson. Hi, Piper.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah. Okay, let's just say it. This is your second time here.
I know, but I really enjoyed my first time. I had no qualms about coming back to talk with you again at all. But I don't know if you noticed that I was very quick to say, yes, I want to come back.
You were so quick to say yes. So some audio corruption happened with the file. We don't know what happened. This has never happened before. But I asked Piper and felt terrible and said, can you come back?
I just assumed it was my voice, that the recording studio was like, oh, go, we got to redo that one.
No, but I'm actually so happy that it happened to you because I get to see you again. I get to chat about I Live Here, I Give Here again. And we're going to pretend that I don't know anything.
I generally don't know anything, so this is going to work great. Let's go.
Okay, listeners should know I Live Here, I Give Here by now because you guys are asked about for every single nonprofit. When I said what's top of mind, January, February, March, it was Amplify Austin Day. And that is organized by I Live Here, I Give Here. Yeah. But go ahead, Piper, tell us what I Live Here, I Give Here does and what y'all are about.
I Live Here, I Give Here is a nonprofit in Central Texas. And our goal is to really build a generosity movement and make sure that every single Central Texan knows how to give back and actually is giving back. We are working with 750 nonprofits at any given time. And we are doing all the work to make sure that people know how to contribute back to their community. You mentioned Amplify Austin Day, which is a huge pillar of what we do. Every year we put on this big giving day. And it raises somewhere around $10 million every year for those 750 nonprofits. And then throughout the year, we're doing other things to make sure that individuals and companies and nonprofits really have everything that they need to succeed and make our community what it needs to be.
Y'all are connecting Central Texas with nonprofits.
We are, and making sure that people in Central Texas really not only know what they care about, because I think sometimes people don't even know what their passion is. So not just that they know the thing that they care about, but that they know how to get involved with that. They know how to volunteer, they know how to give their money, they know how to be engaged with the thing that they care about.
That's also what we're doing here at the podcast is who wants, maybe someone wants to listen instead of go research or go to an event. Maybe they just want to listen to their car and figure out that passion. And y'all have that amplified. So that's amazing. Y'all are doing a lot of great work. And of course, the community you're serving, it is Central Texas.
Counties. Yeah. We are covering Travis County, Williamson County, Burnett Caldwell. It's a 7-county Central Texas area. Admittedly, Amplify Austin Day really serves Austin and Travis County for the most part. But that's why we created an Amplify Wilco Day. Because one of the things that we saw was that a couple years ago on Giving Tuesday, the giving in Williamson County increased by 130%. It was wild, the increases that you were seeing in Williamson County. And not just on the donors, but in the number of nonprofits really supporting that ecosystem out there too. Because we were seeing such growth in the nonprofits and in the donors and the donations in Williamson County, we created an Amplify Wilco Day, which is like a parallel event, but really honors the incredible work that's being done in Williamson County. Same day as Amplify Austin Day, same platform, all those sorts of things, but really just says, y'all are doing amazing things. Let's highlight that.
I haven't looked into this. Do most large cities have an I live here, I give here type organization?
No. Thank you for asking that. I think what's interesting is that I Live Here, I Give Here is a nonprofit building generosity. Amplify Austin Day is a huge giving day, but most cities don't have an I Live Here, I Give Here or an Amplify Austin Day. There are some organizations like this out there. For example, Minnesota has Give MN, which is an organization that puts on a big giving day up there, but it's for the entire state. Same thing with Colorado Gives for the entire state. It's a huge giving day. Miami has a giving day, but so many of the giving days are based out of the community foundations, or there are very few of us that have the nonprofit that is putting on the giving day as well.
Have y'all ever wanted to expand, or do you like to keep it smaller?
What's fun is that we are having conversations with the San Antonio Giving Day about what that looks like, what they're doing. Pretty soon, San Antonio and Austin are basically going to be the same city. And so making sure that we're having that conversation about collaboration and what that looks like. The other thing is that North Texas has a huge giving day. North Texas Gives is enormous. Houston doesn't have any giving day. They have great organizations. The Greater Houston Community Foundation is awesome. The Houston Endowment is amazing, but no giving day. I think we're seeing places where we could fill in the holes, but I think really where our focus is the fact that on Amplify Austin Day, we get maybe 30,000 people to give. If you're looking at Central Texas, you have about 3 million people. So it's a tiny fraction of the number of people that could give. Right now, we really just want to make sure that everyone in Central Texas not just knows how to give, but knows how important it is to give.
That seems like a much more manageable and attainable goal, increase the number of givers in this population.
Yeah, and it can be money or it can be time. We just want everyone to understand how you give back. If you don't have money, maybe you donate $5, but maybe you just go donate an hour of your time, or maybe you just share a social media post, or maybe you just go check on your neighbor. But giving something is really what we're trying to encourage.
Giving is really important to you, Piper. I know you're an Austin native and you have dedicated your career to making a difference in the community. You've had experience in roles like managing corporate partnerships for Michelle Obama's Let Girls Learn initiative, and you were recognized as one of BBC's top 100 women in 2021. You were bringing it.
Kind of a fluke. So I was working at the Safe Alliance, and we were doing a lot of work around women's rights. And this is a little deep and hard, but one of the things that we know at the Safe Alliance, which works to stop the cycle of violence, is that women in particular were having their reproductive rights taken away, even when they were survivors of rape and incest. We were seeing instances of really young people that were unable to control what was happening to their bodies even after incest. And that was heartbreaking. We were speaking up about that. And it became international news that this was happening in Texas. The BBC got wind of it, and I got that award when really it was hundreds of women and people that are fighting for this and fighting on this issue. But I just happen to be recognized.
Those are heartbreaking stories, and it feels silly to say it's political. We have people in California that won't come visit Texas right now. Those are rights that I'm happy that people are fighting for. Let's switch to numbers because you've already said some great numbers. So y'all are supporting. You said about $10 million each year, but life to date, $150 million has been raised for 1,600 Central Texas nonprofits.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It is incredible. We started in 2007, and Amplify Austin Day started about 5 years later. Since 2007, we have raised $150 million for about 1,600 nonprofits here in Central Texas. One of the cool parts, that has activated about 250,000 people to give. That number is huge to me too, because I just want people to give back. 250,000 people giving back is a really amazing output.
It's an amazing output. You're not just getting donors on Amplify Austin Day. Some of the other statistics, just because it shows how much you highlight these nonprofits. 2 million people visit your website per year. That's incredible. 5.5 million impressions on social media. It just shows you that people are looking at your organization and finding nonprofits. And it means a lot for those nonprofits to have that spotlight.
Thank you. And in fact, I told you this, but I didn't know until we were doing this podcast that 2 million people visit amplifyatx.org every year. It's amazing. Amplifyatx.org is the site that we use for Amplify Austin Day, but it's up all year round. People go there for a number of reasons. Some nonprofits use it to fundraise all year round. In fact, some nonprofits use it as their primary fundraising site year round.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You allow for that all year round.
Absolutely. And in fact, we're hearing more and more organizations that are either volunteer run or just that's where they drive people because that's where people are used to going for them. The other thing that people do on that site is that they really go to shop nonprofits, just like this podcast does. That website, amplifyatx.org, it lists the nonprofits and it categorizes them by either topic. So you can search for animal serving organizations or kid serving organizations or health serving organizations, but also categorizes it by county, by whether or not they're led by a person of color, whether they have a racial equity clause, whether they have volunteer opportunities too. You can really dig in and search for the things, the passion causes that you have. That's what those 2 million people are doing. We have professional contacts at corporations who want to give back. We've got a buddy at the Moody Center who regularly has tickets to give away to nonprofits. She goes to amplifyatx.org and is like, okay, I haven't given tickets to a mental health nonprofit in a while, and shops around. And I love that that resource exists for people to use 365 days of the year.
I love that y'all categorize it so that it's so easy. It's like you're shopping for a cause.
That's what my mom does on Amplify Austin Day. She literally says, I'm going shopping. And like she scrolls through and puts things in her cart and she loves it.
We talked about this last time, but the nonprofits that did the best in terms of dollars was the Central Texas Food Bank and Shadow Cats. Shadow Cats was number 2. And Courtney and I laughed about that because we were like, oh, tell us more. Can you share what Shadow Cats does?
Yeah, Shadow Cats is amazing. So these 2 women, Jackie and Sheila, were seeing an increased number of elderly and infirmed cats. And they were just taking them in. What they found is that people who care about cats have some resources, but really care about cats. So Sheila and Jackie bought this house out in the country, and it now houses a whole slew, like dozens and dozens of infirmed and elderly cats. And they have people that are full-time taking care of those cats. But one of the things that they do really well, in addition to taking care of cats, is that they really know how to take care of the people that care about cats. They have done a great job of stewarding their donors, of making sure that their donors know what they're doing, making their donors feel welcome, and making sure that those people in our community who love cats, maybe in part because sometimes humans are hard to love, that they know what to do with their resources. And so on Amplify Austin Day, they get checks for $80,000, $50,000, because people know that they are doing the really good work of taking care of these cats, and they're taking care of the humans that care about the cats. Every year, do an incredible job, and they're the nicest people. I am not necessarily a huge cat person. Hate mail, here it comes. But I love them and I love what they do. And I love how much they care not only about the cats, but about the humans that love the cats.
2 topics that matter that Courtney and I have discussed. One is that the more that people come and volunteer, the more likely you are to donate because you see the impact. That eliminates any trust. That eliminates any, what is this nonprofit? Do show up. And so the more nonprofits are like, come on, come and help us, you get to see their world and you show up with dollars usually after that. And you get really emotionally invested. I'm also a dog. I don't know if you're a dog person. I'm a dog person. But the second topic that we talked about were causes that matter. Courtney and I discussed this. Like, it'd be such a sad world if all of us just cared about dogs. All of us just cared about children. All of us just cared about veterans. All cared about the elderly. Each of those segments of our population, animals, environment, they need to be loved and cared for. And what a terrible world it would be if everyone just focused on that one segment. I love that there are people that love cats and are showing up for shadow cats.
Yeah, I met with 2 donors yesterday. They're both very active in the community. They both care a great deal. They talked about how they had come to find their priorities and their passions. And it was fascinating. They have a grandson who has cystic fibrosis, and so they're contributing to cystic fibrosis. They both had elderly parents who passed away, and AGE was so good to them and so helpful. And so they started giving to AGE. They really care about the arts, since they give to arts organizations. But they have found that they could give to everything. We could all give to everything. We care about everything. But they have found that for their giving, they have to create buckets and make sure that they know that the organizations that they care most about, doing the work that they really care about, get the bulk of their resources. And I respected that so much. I feel like sometimes with my own giving, I'm like, oh, $10 here, and oh, you asked me for $50. But I really appreciated that they were really being strategic and thoughtful and putting their money where their heart was, and then putting their time into those organizations too. That just felt so holistic and trusting and beautiful.
I love to hear that. So y'all cater to what I would say like 3 segments: individuals, corporations, nonprofits. Can you maybe talk a little bit about how you're serving each of those? And maybe that comes in the form of different programs or offerings, and what I Give Here does for each of those segments?
Yeah. When we're thinking about the corporations, what we're doing is we're going to companies and saying, you know that if you get your employees engaged in the community, they're going to stick around because they know you care about the community. And also, you're going to build your brand awareness in the community. You are going to show the community that you are doing good. For example, we work with Expedia, and Expedia doesn't have an office here, but they have a month of caring. Here in Austin, we make sure that their 300 employees that are here in Austin, we listen to them, we say, what do you care about? And then we get them out to volunteer in the community during that month of caring. What we have seen is that those Expedia employees feel more loyalty to Expedia because they're getting out into the community and they see that Expedia cares. We have really positive thoughts and interactions with Expedia, and we talk about this all the time because of how cool that is. We've also seen Expedia employees that go out and volunteer somewhere and then get further engaged, just like you were talking about, maybe become a donor. We've had employees become board members because they care. We think that working with employees of companies and working through the companies is so important. With those individuals, you're talking about 1 million people in Austin alone. Doing that work, we try and really focus on particular areas. One of the things that we do is we focus on those people that are young professionals. We want to make sure that young professionals who are coming in the world, coming up through companies and just moving to Austin, know how to get involved. We have something called CS Give, which is a dinner where we gather young professionals to talk about giving, why you give, how you give back, how to find the thing that you're passionate about. We also do training for people on how to become board members. We know that those 12,000 nonprofits here in Central Texas all need great board members. And so making sure that there are skilled people who know how and why to become board members is really important. We do a training around that. And then throughout the year, we're doing different things around donor education so that people understand why you become a donor, what being a good donor is, how to get your kids involved in giving back, how to make sure that you're doing giving in a trust-based way, all these different things. We're getting individuals really to move along their giving journey. Finally, we're working with nonprofits. And really what we're doing there is making sure that nonprofits have the communications and the fundraising skills that they need to help them succeed on Amplify Austin Day, but really to help them to succeed all year round. We just did a training for nonprofits on stewarding their donors, and that involved getting shadow cats to come and talk about how they steward their donors, how they take care of their donors, not just on Amplify Austin Day, but throughout the year. Making sure that those nonprofits are really strong, really make sure that the backbone of our community is feels really strong.
When you say steward your donors, can you be more specific?
Stewarding your donors is all about making sure that your donor doesn't just know that you are grateful, but it's making sure that you are bringing them into your work. For example, when my husband first gave on Amplify Austin Day 8 years ago, whatever it was, we had a friend who worked with the Austin Diaper Bank as a board member. On that day, we gave money to the Austin Diaper Bank because we were supporting her more than anything. We didn't know much about the Austin Diaper Bank. A week later, we got a handwritten postcard from a member of the board saying, "Thank you so much. Here's what your gift meant." And we went, "Oh man, this is handwritten. This is very impressive." About 6 months later, we got an impact report from them saying what they had done throughout the year and what our gift had meant and what other gifts had meant to them throughout the year. About 3 months later, we were invited to go do a tour of the Austin Diaper Bank. The next year, we gave again. In fact, we gave more money because throughout the year, what they had been doing with us was saying, "We see you. We're grateful for your gift. We want to make sure that you are not only giving to us this year, but you continue to be a part of the Austin Diaper Bank community." That's stewardship, and that is good stewardship. The fact that we gave one year and then we didn't just give the next year, but gave more, showed that their work taking care of us and stewarding us was actually really effective.
We've given to a lot of nonprofits, but it is interesting. You do see how they show up differently after you've donated, and some nonprofits are really good at it.
We're not.
It's true, right? It's like running a business. All businesses are operated differently, and
That's right.
nonprofits are operated differently.
Yeah.
I have loved when I get a story or I get a personal email or a personal card or a personal phone call, even when I don't ever answer the phone of a number I don't know. I love hearing the voicemail of, "Hey, thank you so much. This is what it did." I think that's great.
It is great. Yesterday, those donors I was talking to, they had an experience with a nonprofit that they were deeply involved with. They were not stewarded well, and they did not give money to that nonprofit. They don't wish it ill will. They aren't out there bad mouthing this nonprofit, but it made an impact that they weren't stewarded. I think that's really important. The other thing is that people want to be stewarded in different ways, which is very hard if you're a nonprofit. I know of a major donor that does not want anything from the nonprofit. They don't want a thank you note. They don't want a vest. They don't want a koozie. They don't want anything, but they are a major donor. And so it's all about having the communication with the donors about what do you want? What do you not want? What works for you? What doesn't work for you? Just like everything else in life, it's all about communication.
Everything is about communication. We've been thinking about getting a bathroom remodel, and every contractor we have, we're trying to sense what is their communication style.
And then there's communication between the two of you about them.
Yeah, it's a different story.
It's a different story, but it's all about communication.
That's right. Marriages make or break during that time. But totally, communication is everything. Even at work, if you communicate ahead of time, manage expectations and communicate. I can't say that enough. One other thing that Courtney and I, because of course I'm the researcher in the group, she has the experience, I go do the research, I know nothing. But my research did show something that's interesting to me is that I think a lot of people, and this is maybe biased from what I read in social media comments and Reddit, and that could always be skewed, but people think that people should be doing things out of the goodness of their heart and that's it. I find that to be a little bit naive. Every study I found where it said, do people want to be appreciated? The vast majority said that they would like to be recognized for giving money. It could be from the goodness of your heart, but it feels good to be recognized. And I think that's very human. I think it's a little naive to just go, nope, they did it from the goodness of their heart. They should just be fine without a thank you.
That's a much deeper conversation about altruism and what truly is altruism and why are we doing good in the community? Why are we doing good for ourselves? Why are we giving back? I'm sorry, but as humans, we are going to be selfish. It might be that we're giving because we just believe in it, but we do want to be seen. We do want to be thanked. And everybody's giving for a different reason. Just like those companies. Some companies are giving because they want their name out there and they know that they need to build their community brand. Some companies are giving because of the tax write-offs. Some companies are giving because they've had trouble with employee engagement and retention and they want to build that up. Whatever the reason that they're giving, though, I don't really care.
Courtney and I say the same thing. We could not care less. It's going towards a good thing.
I want to make sure that we're stewarding them. If they're worried about their brand, I want to splash their brand everywhere. If they're worried about their employees, I want to make sure their employees are volunteering. That's why I care. But why they give back? Just do it. It's great as long as you're doing it.
I think the same.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear other voices. Okay, so let's switch because we want to make sure that listeners hear stories that connect them to I Live Here, I Give Here. There is a particular nonprofit that has benefited and came up to you guys that's benefited from Amplify Austin Day. Did you want to speak to that?
Every year on Amplify Austin Day, we raise additional funds. The nonprofits are out there raising money. It's amazing. We also raise money, around $300,000, that goes to prizes for nonprofits that are doing like kicking ass on that day. But it also goes to this pro rata matching fund that's out there. We're raising matching funds on that day as well. We had an organization called 100 Black Men. They're amazing. They do incredible work in our community, supporting mostly Black scholars. They had already gotten the money that they raised on Amplify Austin Day, but they hadn't received their matching funds. We sent them a check for their matching funds. And a couple weeks later, their board chair called and said, "Hey, Piper, I just need you to know that I received a phone call from a father, and his daughter was going to get kicked out of her apartment. She's here in college at HT at Houston-Tillotson, and she was going to get kicked out of her apartment if she didn't pay the $700 in rent." That day, we got a check from I Live Here, I Give Here for $700. We turned around, gave her that $700. She stayed in her apartment, finished out the school year. It's very rare that something is that tangible, but that's incredible. That's incredible that you have this organization in the community supporting Black students in that way with such tangible, beautiful, concrete things that they need to succeed. But also that gift arrived right on time, and that we had been able to help someone was just phenomenal. It felt karmic in some ways, honestly. So
Yeah, absolutely. And then that person is less stressed. They're finishing school, they're going off and hopefully doing better things. The ripple effect of all these good things that are happening over time, and a lot of them are through nonprofits.
And try and tell me that person, that kiddo, that student isn't going to go out and help someone else.
100%.
I really love stories like that.
I do too. You know this too well. It's people can donate their time, money, talents. Is that treasury
There's
talents?
five.
There's five now.
Time, talent, treasure, testimony, and ties.
What is that? Okay, so
I-
testimony, I get it. You're like spreading the word.
Yeah, you're just talking on social media about something that you really care about. I ask for my board members at I Live Here, I Give Here for ties all the time. Who do you know? I need help getting a contact at Atlassian. Who do you know? I need help finding someone at whatever. That's where I ask for a lot of help from my board members, is on the ties piece. Yeah, those connections.
Atticus Legacy Dog Rescue. A good example of that would be I either give them money, or I give them time, I foster a dog, or talent, I go and help them build their website, or
Testimony.
Testimony could maybe be just sharing their foster this dog on social media.
100%.
And then ties is I'm connecting someone to their organization that could help them with maybe one of those other things.
Or you're like, oh, I shop at Tomlinson's all the time. Tomlinson's, can you help them with free dog food or whatever
Yeah,
it is?
cool.
Tomlinson's does great stuff, by the way. The
Yeah.
pets are always donating things.
Yeah, Chewy is, I know, also good.
Oh, that's so great. Love it.
HEB, Tomlinson. I want to give them all shout outs all day. I think it's powerful when businesses step up. Thank you for clearing that up. The 5 ways to give back. That was super helpful. So every guest, I make them say a good brag. I know sometimes it's uncomfortable. I feel like a terrible person for asking people who dedicate their lives to nonprofits to share something they've been doing good that's outside of the nonprofit. But hey, to your point real quick, you have those 5 that you just said. And I would put a 6 that is completely outside of nonprofits and not specific to nonprofits, is be a good person. There's 5 ways to go and help with these nonprofits. And then number 6 is be a good person. The more you're a good person, the more other people are going to do good things after that. What is your good brag? It could be anything.
I think that actually number 6 is where I'm trying to live right now. It's hard right now.
Yeah.
The world is hard and people are having a hard time. I have found that when people are having a hard time, I could turtle. Like I could just pull my head and my feet into my shell and just be in my house with my kids and my husband. I think that one of the things that I know, though, is that when I am making an effort to check on people, to be kind, when I'm at the HEB and the checker has the most adorable freckles on her nose and I say, I love your freckles. And she says, thank you so much. I needed that. Or when I go down to take herbs from my neighbor's garden and stop in and say hello and check on her. It's all about these very small things that we are doing. I'm doing a lot more of just assuming that people are having a hard time and treating them with empathy and kindness. It is just hard right now. My humble brag is that I have done better about having perspective thinking empathetically about people and giving people a little bit more grace. When that jerk is speeding down my street, I assume that he has somewhere that he really has to get quickly. When that guy flicks me off or whatever he does, I have to assume that he is having a really hard day. Just giving people a little bit more grace is where I am right now.
A really good brag. Because giving people the benefit of the doubt just doesn't happen anymore. It really doesn't.
True.
Sometimes I do something good and I have thought back, did someone think I had a different agenda? Isn't that a scary world to live in? I don't know. Anyway,
know.
I think that's great and I love that. That's a very good brag. And I'm so glad that you're not becoming a turtle because we need more Piper in the world doing good things. Okay, wait, you also have a DEF. I know that you said that you've been
Thank
using
you for reminding me. The other thing that I'm doing a lot recently is I'm giving from my DAF. We started a donor-advised fund, which is really beautiful. And I think you've talked about this on your podcast.
A little bit.
Okay, very briefly, a DAF is a donor-advised fund. It's where you take some money that you have, you put it in a charitable account. It's totally free to do this. You get the tax benefit when you put it in the donor advised fund. And then it's like free money sitting there. You've put it over there. You can't do anything with it but give to charitable organizations. I have found that recently I am giving more and more money out of my DAF. It used to be that maybe once every couple months I would make a grant. Now it's literally weekly that I am making grants out of that because there's so much need out there. That feels really good to me. It feels good to be doing something. It feels good that it's money that's just sitting there ready for me to give charitably. One of the reasons that I am doing more out of my DAF right now is that the federal funding and the changes to federal funding are starting to make a difference locally on what nonprofits have and what they can do. I want to say that one of the things that's scary to me is that as a society, we don't do great talking about money. We also don't do great talking about failure or perceived failure. We've seen a number of organizations that have had to unexpectedly shut down their organization or shut down programs. The truth is that they had to talk about that and consider that for some time, but they didn't talk about it publicly. I am very worried that nonprofits right now are going to be struggling and they're not going to be talking about it. We aren't going to know that the nonprofit is in danger until they have to shut something down. I am just encouraging nonprofits to start talking about it and talking about it publicly. I'm not saying that we're going to save every nonprofit or save every program at every nonprofit, but I want people to have the opportunity to make a difference. I want to hear from the nonprofits that they're having a hard time.
Those are historically taboo topics. Thankfully, a lot of these taboo topics are coming to light a little bit more.
True.
I think money should be talked about so much more than it is, by the way, whether that's individual business, it runs our world. Dr. Hermes Camacho, Austin Soundwaves. I spoke with him 2 weeks ago, and he said the National Endowment of the Arts, that they just lost some funding.
Yep.
I don't know how much, but it pains me to hear those things because it makes an incredible impact to these nonprofits and they can't plan. I love that you have a DAF and that you're using it.
Use it. Yeah.
Let's switch gears and allow listeners chance for bragging rights. How can they show up for I Live Here, I Give Here? I know there's many ways. Do you want to talk about those?
I Live Here, Give Here has a need for funding ourselves because we are the ones that are putting on Amplify Austin Day. We're the ones collecting those funds for the prizes and for the matching funds. And we're really just doing everything we can to encourage giving. We are ourselves a nonprofit. And so any time that anyone wants to donate to I Live Here, I Give Here, we love it. We have some monthly donors who give maybe $25 a month, and it's glorious, and we're very grateful for it. Visiting that amplifyatx.org is such a great place to not only look for nonprofits and causes that you care about, but also to donate to those nonprofits and those causes that you care about. I will always encourage people to go visit there. I will also tell you that in the fall coming up, we have some amazing programming happening. For example, on September 25th, we're doing something called See Us Give. It is a large dinner. It's not a fundraiser. It's gathering people to talk about giving and giving back. We're focused primarily on young professionals, but really anybody that wants to get more into the giving space. We have an inspirational speaker, and the goal is really to get people thinking about what they care about and how they can give back to the things that they care about in our community.
Yeah,
Love
and that's
that.
young professionals.
That's mostly young professionals, yes.
And that's called See Us Give, and that's in September.
25th. We're having El Dorado cater that. We're really looking forward to that event.
That's great. I am going to release an episode at some point where I interviewed Dick Raithgaber. I don't know if you've heard of him. Yeah. He's a character. He's so funny. I did interview him because I wanted to know, what are you giving? He's given $200 million to Austin. He's 92 years old. Yeah. Can you imagine him on a podcast?
Yes, actually, I've met him, so I can.
He was a hoot, but clearly he thinks a lot about business and then a lot about giving afterwards, which is great. He's a big proponent of just start to give when you're young, because I said, okay, you started making a lot of money and then giving. When should people start giving? And he says, you spend the first half of your life trying to be successful, second half of your life trying to be significant, but you don't know what is what. I actually think that's a good line, because I think my 20s were all about success. It's such a beautiful thing to try and get young professionals to open their eyes and go, I can start helping today.
One of the reasons we have to start with young professionals is that so many people don't hear about that growing up. I would argue that growing up, you should start to be hearing about that now. I guess this is maybe another humble brag, and I apologize. But with our kids, every month they get $20 in spending money, $20 in savings, and then $20 that goes to a nonprofit of their choice. And at the end of the year, they each have $240 that they get to tell us where to donate it. I think that's important. I think the other piece is getting people out to volunteer. When I was 13 and my dad took me every Tuesday morning to volunteer with folks facing homelessness, I admit that I hated it at the time. It was weird, and I thought I didn't share much with these people, but of course I did, and I learned a lot. Now I see it as shaping a lot of who I've become. Getting these kiddos out to engage in the community at a young age is really important.
I wish we started it sooner. My son is in high school, so we do Young Men's Service League, which is the mom's son, and I do love that, and I love my time with him. I wish we would have done it sooner. I do know when we were young, we asked them about a nonprofit, and of course, our older son at the time, he was young. His was sharks. So it's always animals when they're young. I'm like, yes, let's go save the sharks. I'm sure there is a listener out there that'll be like, no, we need to save the sharks. Don't make fun of this. But I wish we did really start the actual service aspect sooner. If anyone's listening and they have a young one, I highly recommend, if you weren't raised in that environment, like I was not raised like that, highly recommend to make traditions around volunteering and showing up together. It becomes forced family time as they get older and want to get away from you. And they become more memories. And I'll just share, I know we're way over time. So I did a Father's Day card for my dad recently, and he's a workaholic. He's a physician, always worked, sometimes forgot a birthday party. He worked 7 days a week. But when he had us, every other Wednesday night and the weekends, because my parents were divorced, the quality was so high in terms of our time together. And I think he feels a lot of guilt over how much he worked. I'm in my mid-30s, gave him a Father's Day card last year, and he opened it, and it was every single little memory that we would do on repeat, like restaurants and how he did something specific, prepare my food, or like all the little things that I just really appreciated, or practicing soccer late at night before tryouts. All these little things that were repeat in nature, primarily I'd say 75% of it was repeat traditions. And he just started crying, and I don't ever see him cry. It made me realize at that time, we need to make those memories with our kids, and how easy it is to include service in those memories. My son and I listening to a podcast on the way of our service events. It's just me and him. Listen to it. The Rest is History podcast. And then we go out for pizza afterwards. And I hope that one day on a card he can write, I loved those service events that just the two of us did, Mom. We listened to the history podcast and we grabbed pizza.
I love that. It's hard to find those service events that fit for your family and for the age of your kiddos. I think one of the things in this job is that I have seen more and more ways for kids to give back. First of all, Generation Serve does a great job finding opportunities for kids. But through this job, my kid and I have volunteered at Austin Creative Reuse, and we were just out at Tree Folks, which was amazing. I'm so grateful for all the things that I've seen in this job, and part of it is just there are so many ways to give back.
Generation Serve, that's a past episode. So if someone's listening and wants to go listen to that, go listen to Stephanie. She's fantastic. We are going to talk to Austin Creative Reuse.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I'm excited, and I'll bring that up. Okay. So donate.
Get involved. Do events.
Take action. Contact elected officials.
Oh, yes.
Big one, right?
Yeah. Especially right now.
Yes. Volunteer. If you have a skill, join a board. Businesses, show up on Amplify Austin Day. Reach out how to give back. I Live Here, I Give Here does conferences, gives you all the skills, everything you need to set yourself up for success, to be a good community
giver.
I love that. And upcoming events, September 25th, remember to be there.
Yeah.
See us give. And then you'll just release your board lists. So if you are interested in
Yes.
joining,
those 12,000 nonprofits in Central Texas need good board members. On November 19th, we do a full day training for people that are interested in being board members. But we just released our spring, summer list of board member openings. We have 13 pages of nonprofits that need really good board members. It lists what kind of board members they need and also how to get involved, how to approach them.
that's great. If you have time and you have a skill, show up for those nonprofits. Also, it is good for your resume if you're trying to build yourself up in the corporate or for-profit world.
And it's not just good for your resume, it's great networking. When I joined the Board of Aid Services of Austin, that was my first profession, first board to join. I still have friends, I have professional contacts, I have philanthropic contacts, all from that board service. I learned how to do a merger, all these skills and these contacts and these amazing relationships that I got just from being on a board. I'm still grateful for that.
We talk about showing up and doing something good, even with self-serving components. That's great.
Thank you so much for having me. This was, of course, a delight.
All right. Thanks, Piper.
Thank you.
Hey, listeners. Hope you loved this episode and feel inspired to step up for I Live Here, I Give Here. Piper and her team aren't just helping nonprofits, they want to help you get involved too. Thinking about joining a board? Their spring board list is out. Want to support a nonprofit that powers every other nonprofit in Central Texas? They need support too. Even $25 a month makes a difference. If we weren't loud enough during this episode, nonprofits are at risk, especially here in Austin, where local organizations are projected to lose at least $65 million in funding by 2025. But you can take action. I Live Here, I Give Here makes it easy to contact your elected officials and speak up. Just visit ilivehereigivehere.org, go to About, blogs, and check out the future of nonprofits are at risk. If you're a young professional or you know one, check out See Us Give, a dinner experience created to inspire your giving journey. It's happening September 25th. Still figuring out your cause? Head to amplifyatx.org and start exploring. There's a nonprofit out there that needs you, so go shopping. And here's a fun one. Are you showing up for I Live Here, I Give Here? Earn a chance to win Texas Stars hockey tickets. Thanks to the Texas Stars Foundation, they love giving to those who give back. To show how you're showing up for our community, tag us and use #GoodBrag, DM us your post, and you'll be entered to win. Big thanks to Piper and the whole I Live Here, I Give Here team. Thanks to Nightlight Insurance Agency for presenting Escape into a Cause and for your donation to I Live Here, I Give Here. Thank you, Todd Thompson, for editing and mixing, Graham Thompson and Jaden Dyer for the music, Corey McCain at Just Push Record Studios, and Ashlyn O'Neill for digital content management. We will be back next Thursday as we escape into Louder Than Silence, an organization offering long-term care and community at no cost for survivors of sexual violence, because no survivor should have to pay to undo the damage of someone else's crime. We hope to see you next week as we escape into a cause.